Did you know that there's actually an entire Earth in the DC universe about Stan Lee reimagining DC characters? In 2003, we got a handful of one-shots with different characters, and yes, it was actually Stan Lee who wrote them. The reason why I point this out is because a lot of people had actually believed these stories were DC Comics just trying to replicate Stan Lee's writing style. But that's actually wrong. It was actually Stan Lee who wrote them. Now, while I plan to go over every single one of these one-shots eventually, for today we're going to stick with Batman, which is actually a really good story that is unfortunately overshadowed by something very, very hard to get away from. You see, this version of Batman is named Wayne Williams. Now, clearly, Wayne Williams is meant to be a reference to Bruce Wayne. However, there's a problem. Wayne Williams is also the name of a serial killer from 1979 to 1981. So, it's a little bit odd that they named him Wayne Williams. Now, they claim they did it by accident, and they did not know that the name Wayne Williams belonged to a serial killer, which, honestly, I can't believe. But still, it's just something you don't want to be associated with. Any drama, that is. But this is definitely something that you really don't want to be associated with. However, let's start into the story. Starting off, Batman is Wayne Williams, which I already said. An African-American man who had taken up the mantle of Batman. His father was a police officer who was murdered in an ambush. He was in the same circles as some criminals growing up, and would grow close to a woman named Nita. But she loved another man, a mob boss named Handz, who was attacked once. But rather than protect him, he protected Nita, making the man jealous and frame Wayne, which resulted in him in going to prison. While he was in prison, he learned that his mother had died. He also grew a friendship with a fellow inmate named Fred Grant, a scientist, and during a riot, he helped save a couple of prison guards' lives, which actually gave him full pardon, and was a free man. Afterwards, he decided to become the Batman, but with a more visible resemblance to that of an actual bat. Now, what is Batman, you might ask? A hero? No, he's not. Instead, Batman is actually a wrestler name, and he uses it as a disguise to make sure no one knows it's him. This for he can now fight in matches and win money, which he does do. In fact, he becomes the wealthiest fighter in the world, because he's almost unbeatable. Afterwards, he uses his money to buy Fred a mansion, while he becomes his bodyguard as a cover. And now under the name Batman, he uses it for revenge. He attacks Handz on top of a building, and while he does intend to kill him, he doesn't get to do it. Instead, Handz actually falls to his death accidentally. Afterwards, he swears to no longer use the name Batman for revenge, but for justice. As well as bringing Nita kind of into the fold by having Fred hire her as a secretary, however not telling her the truth of his whole bat stuff. Now, like I said, in my opinion, this story is a strong one. However, again, it's typically overlooked because of one big reason: Wayne's name. It's just really something you can't just ignore, because not only does he share a name, he also shares having to go into prison, the murder aspects. I don't know how to put it. It's controversial, and I really don't want to get attacked for putting my input on it. Personally, if the character returned, I wouldn't be upset, but I would maybe change his last name to maybe Wayne something else, so just to get rid of that whole parallel with the actual Wayne Williams in real life. I think this version of Batman is unique, and I like seeing Stan Lee's version of The Dark Knight, but the story still struggles because of the name. This version of Batman has some clear shades of Spider-Man, Luke Cage, and Iron Man, other Stan Lee creations, and Wayne would reappear joining Stan Lee's Justice League, and would also show up here and there in cameos, and even showed in Convergence. This universe is also later labeled as Earth 6, but he, along with the rest of the League, would appear in a recent one-shot called Tales from Earth 6 in 2023, however, it just doesn't really feel the same, for the obvious reason that Stan Lee didn't write it. Wayne appears in the first story where he faces off a villain named the Choker, with a CH instead of a J for Joker. It's actually a really good read, and I did like it. but it just doesn't really feel the same. Instead of a Stan Lee Batman comic, it feels more like a Batman parody comic. A very good one, by the way, just not a Stan Lee one. I personally, like I said, I liked it, even if I think the tone really did feel a little bit different. It's just some subtle changes in the tone that really, I think, make a pretty big change. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!